40? Still what? Car 40?
No, for
40?
in the sleepers.
Yes.
Is it Quebec?
Oh, glad I asked. Bye.